This was the first big project in California that I started working on. And it was one of those things where I had that Midwest perspective. I mean, they're building a road. How hard is that, right?
How hard can it be?
How hard can it be, right? But then I started to realize the layers of regulatory challenges we faced,
Right.
the bureaucratic nightmare.
Project delivery is just a series of legal steps. You're not here in the office permanently, but like you're here all the time because everything that we do is legal step to get this project built.
The Connector as a joint powers authority, it's effectively like a joint venture. I mean, some might call it a startup, right?
Mm-hmm.
To that extent, where you're trying to get VC funding, lack of a better term, but you're trying to fund the project and fund this vision.
Our project addresses a lot of these different criteria feds are looking to fund.
A job that's like a mission. We're on a mission. When you have a mission statement, you're going to go and deliver that project, but it's going to be dynamic and you always have to adapt to the circumstances.
We were very fortunate to get into it, and that was monumental because once you're in, that state's recognizing investment in you, right? It's not like they're going to stop that as long as you're accomplishing and meeting expectations, which we are.
Welcome back to Between Two Shovels. I'm Derek Minnema. This is Osman, Mufti, Matt Lampa, the brain trust of the Connector JPA. Oz, I wanted to have you come in today just to, sit down. Let's just talk about the project, what the challenges we're dealing with. I think this is kind of like Matt and I were chatting. This is modern public outreach. This is modern public engagement. I used to go get cookies from Rayleigh's and bottled water. We'd take it to the landfill. Public would have to come to the landfill to learn about our project. Now we're doing podcasts. So things are always changing. As I met you for the very first time with Nancy Miller, I call her my mom lawyer.
Yeah. She's my word mom.
Yeah. She's fantastic and she's always looking out for me. But you came in here, I don't remember the year, but I remember thinking I need our legal team to be doing more work. Right. And I was like, Nancy, you're not here enough. Right. What do you remember this?
I do remember this. This is actually, I'd never actually had a client tell me you need to do more. You need to bill me more. Right. And so it was a welcome surprise. And as I got into it, I started to realize the amount of work and what was needed to kind of deliver this project. And I think I was kind of naive when I got into it, coming in from the Midwest, right? I had a different perspective. And this was the first big project in California that I started working on. And it was one of those things where I had that Midwest perspective. I mean, they're building a road. How hard is that, right?
How hard can it be?
How hard can it be, right? But then I started to realize the layers of regulatory challenges we faced,
Right.
the bureaucratic nightmare,
Yeah.
and then just the general politics of it all in California. So it was eye-opening and definitely put some gray in my hair. So
It doesn't show.
Yeah.
You're looking great, man. You're looking great. Yeah. I mean, you beat Matt here, right? Matt.
Yeah, by a couple of months, I think.
So yeah,
Yeah.
Oz was a little bit before my time, but
Right.
yeah.
I mean, there's no CEQA in Indiana. Is that what you're saying?
No, there isn't. But conceptually, you want to build something, you should build it, right? I mean, that's why I was struggling to say, okay, you guys were formed in, what was it, like 2011 or 2006? 2006, and we're sitting in, it was 2018 at the time, and I was like, I would have built 30 of these by now, right?
Oh my gosh.
What are some of the differences?
It's the environmental regulations, to be honest with you, and then and funding's always a challenge, right? Bunching is so, and then getting local support for it in that shared vision. Because what I found is that fractures right through the course of the project. So you always have to bring people back to that vision. Hey, I know we started this several years ago, but give them the reminder. This is the purpose. This is the objective. That's why we're doing this.
This is the need.
The need, yeah.
Right. I think the need is, it's like the acorn, right? It starts the whole project. When you can identify the need, and if your need is solid, secure, well identified, good things can grow from it. And because the purpose of the project is to fulfill the need, and it's so important. But we've talked about this many times. Project delivery is just a series of legal steps. I mean, you're not here in the office permanently, but like you're here all the time, because everything that we do is a legal step to get this project built. I mean,
Right. There's a lot of strategy and approach to how we pursue funding, to how we interact with agencies. So it's a lot more involved, right? Sometimes I almost feel like a therapist at times, right? Because we're just working through issues.
Very expensive one.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
You're getting a hell of a deal, Derek.
Remember, I wasn't billing you enough.
Yeah. No, I mean, you've jumped in. It's feet first, and so happy to have you on the team. I mean, I feel like the scope of the work has just evolved so much over the years. I mean, we started by making sure our environmental documents were being approved and compliant, and then it just gets into right-of-way acquisition. But then it's all the funding agreements, which is so incredibly difficult to navigate. I mean, talk about some of the challenges, man. I mean, there's so many, but what comes to the top of mind for you?
Well, funding's always an issue, and now more so than ever, since the landscape's changing at the federal level. So there's a lot of unknown and uncertainty. So I think funding's always going to be a challenge when you're cobbling it together, whether from local, state, federal, finding the local match, right? Which grants to pursue, and that's one of the things I think this agency, the Connector, as a joint powers authority, it's effectively like a joint venture. I mean, some might call it a startup, right? To that extent, where you're trying to get VC funding, for lack of a better term, but you're trying to fund the project and fund this vision. So piecing that together has always been difficult and will remain difficult. I don't see that ever getting easier right now. And right now we're navigating a time where criteria is changing in terms of the funding landscape, in terms of the grants we're pursuing. That's changing tremendously. It's something we just have to adapt to, right? But I think our project is pretty neutral from that angle, where it fits both sides.
I would say that over 34 miles, there's always something that is going to apply to a program, right? Like, there was years ago, I remember this, Matt, where everything in our industry was about the highway bridge program, right? And you just had to find a bridge, and, so the funding programs are constantly changing. There is nothing static there. I mean,
yeah, I think, the pendulum is kind of swung, one way, where over the past, 4 or 5 years, there was a focus on all the equity, climate and stuff like that. And now we're seeing with the new administration coming in, it's going the other way, where we're seeing stuff out of USDOT where they're starting to remove those things from some of the programs. So being able to adapt, and like I said, I think our project addresses a lot of these different criteria that the feds are looking to fund, and the state as well.
Yeah, I mean, the engineer in me is looking at 34 miles and saying, okay, well, this location will apply to this program. This location will apply to this program, right? It's all just, there's no one program that's going to take the entire program, take the entire connector,
right?
So we're constantly trying to figure out the next step. And even though the feds just recently are going to axe bike projects, and they're going to say they're not going to fund it, well, the state will, right? And so now we just pivot our class 1 bike path and away from the federal investment and into more of a state investment.
Yeah, it's just a strategy discussion to see how we sell the project to the federal government. Essentially, is trying to meet those criteria, which I think on the state side we're covered too, because those opportunities are still there for like the ATP funding and that sort of thing. So it's all it's all, I'd say we're constantly adapting, right? And that's the nature of the project and what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So
I think Senate Bill 1 has been, the Road Repair and Accountability Act, Senate Bill 1 has been just a major game changer for California. And for us, I love the consistency of schedule where we know the cycles, we know the programs. And so I can sit here and look out 2 to 4 years and say, we can target that program in that cycle and be ready, and kind of we can come up with a 4-year strategy, right? And I think that is so, it's just so important for transportation to have some consistency like that. You look at the federal government, man, you're buying lotto tickets to get that funding. I mean, it is so difficult. And you're looking at a nationwide competition for discretionary funds. I mean,
and that's it's a competition based on party lines too, right? You always see this with every administration. It's like certain states, blue states will get money when it's a blue president, reds will get when it's a red president. That's how it works, right?
Yeah.
You just got, no matter how competitive or great the project is, that's just the nature of the business at the federal level.
Yeah. And again, for us having 3 congressional representatives, it's that diversity that helps us to at least target, even in different administrations, we still have a play to make.
That's the advantage of having a segmented project. Like we can focus, the next 4 years we're focusing on this segment. Why? Because we've checked the boxes in these areas, whether it's our representative, whether it's the funding opportunity, whether it's the need, we're meeting those. So you can pivot, right? So that's the beauty of the project. It really addresses everything.
Yeah. You said at the beginning that you didn't know exactly what you were getting into or something like that, right? And I've said something very similar, is that I knew what I was doing when I applied for this job, but I didn't know what I was getting into, and you want to work on a big project. You want to have, a challenge in your career to work on and address. But man, you start to get into the dynamics of, 3 cities, 2 counties. It's incredibly challenging. And you have a lot of these agencies that you also are counsel for, right? In some form or manner.
Yeah. So like my area is JPAs, so I'm familiar with the uniqueness of a JPA in terms of, as much as there's a collective goal, there's always internal struggle with any sort of JPA because the member agencies are effectively representing their own interests, and that always comes first, right?
Of course.
So even though they have an end objective, they're always looking out for their own well-being. And sometimes it happens where you have to manage those expectations. Like, for instance, you go first and then we'll get the next round, whether it's you're focusing on a segment of a project or there's another opportunity before a board. But that's the uniqueness of a JPA. I mean, they're great structurally. It's just there's another layer of sort of behind the scene politics that you have to manage, but that's natural by the nature of what they are.
Yeah. And I think somewhere in my job description, it says something about conflicting interests. Like there's no such thing as consensus, right? Like, you can get there, you can get the board to agree on something, but everyone's always looking at their individual jurisdiction. And of course they are. Like you can't fault them for that. I think for the city of Folsom, White Rock Road was like a top priority, right? It was just like very, very clear. And it was easy for us to get in there and, work with them because of how much of a priority it was. And certainly our job is made easier when our member jurisdiction is like, yes, go.
Absolutely.
I'm like, we can be your consultant if you think of us in that way, like we don't have a contract on that, but we will deliver this for you. We're going to bring it to you. And as long as you implement it, it's going to be a success.
Right. I mean, the value the JPA adds is delivering funding, getting the project shovel ready, right? That's what we do, and this is such a large project that the individual member agencies have they're dealing with their own day-to-day stuff on running a city, running a county, whatever it is. That staff doesn't have time to search for grant opportunities like Matt does to put together these complex grant applications to oversee the consultants involved that we have in project delivery. It's a full-time job. That's what we do, right? And I think that sometimes get lost behind the scenes.
Sure. No, you're right. I've kind of talked about it when I explain it to family, friends. Like it's like a job that's like a mission, right? Like I'm not providing a product or selling a product. I'm not providing a service. We're on a mission, and when you have a mission statement, you're going to go and deliver that project, but it's going to be dynamic, and you always have to adapt to the circumstances. But we know what we're trying to do. It's a goal-oriented JPA, right? And that's kind of how I view a JPA.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing is, it's goal oriented and we're passionate about it. That's why it may come off like sometimes, okay, we're passionate. It's not aggression or anything. It's our passion for delivering this. This is our sole purpose. That's what we're here to do. We're going to execute, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, this is what we're focused on.
Yeah,
right?
that's
And we deal with this. We day in, day out, we're working on the Connector project, right? We don't have other miscellaneous other small projects spread throughout the county or member agents, whatever. I mean, this is our focus. We come in every day and we figure out how to get funding, how to advance the engineering, buy right away, and so on.
Yeah, no doubt. Oz, what are some of the challenges you want to highlight for us? Come on, man, get into it. Matt, what do you think?
I mean, the past couple of years, I'd say it's just piecing together funding, right? And we've done that successfully, I think. And now we're focused more on the delivering, like finishing design, right? And getting the actual steps in where it's more, we're relying on others, right? So it's kind of that one aspect where we're overseeing things and we're trying to move the project along from the design standpoint, but also we're still navigating the funding landscape, right? That's a constant, right? Because our vision is what's next, right? Once you secure funding, it's okay, what's next?
Yep.
Got to buy another pot of money.
Yeah. Easier said than done, but we do it. It's, daily struggle sometimes. You have quite a bit of JPAs you represent, right? I mean, you moved here from Indiana 7-8 years ago?
2018.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, I moved 2015, but I started in 2018.
Yeah. But were your favorite JPA?
Absolutely. Yeah. Now I'm on record, right? Yeah. No, I mean,
you live in Folsom. You know the project.
I know the value that's there, and like I said, when I started this, I thought it was. I always recognized the value, and I thought it'd be easy, and it's almost humbling, right? When you're doing this project, you came in where I came in, like, okay, this is not a big deal. We can get it done, right? And so you have to basically manage your own expectations, right? Because I had to manage, but where sometimes you feel defeated, but you got to look at it at the scale of, okay, we got this funding. It's a big win for us. It's a long game, right?
Yeah.
To me, I came in, I just want to win and be done, right?
Yeah.
And we got the sign, mission accomplished. We did it, right? Great. But I realized that's probably not going to happen for several years, right? But
there is no mission accomplished sign. I think that would jinx us if we got one of those, right?
Sure.
You see me show up in like a convertible somewhere with the mission accomplished. It's not gonna go well. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, it seems like every year we have new agreements to sign, new contracts. It's the RFPs are out there. It's I feel like contract law is just almost on the week here. I mean, we're constantly dealing with a contract.
Absolutely. Whether it's consultant contracts or funding agreements, which are larger and take a lot longer time to develop, because you're not working at your own pace. You're working at the pace of whether it's the state or the federal government or your local member jurisdictions. Because we've done MOUs in the past for small bits of funding for different deliverables. All that takes time. And there's negotiation component to it. The strategy behind it, what you're trying to accomplish. Those I would categorize as, those are the longer term contracts. The day-to-day stuff is always there, whether it's a consultant agreement for a small task order, right? You got to make sure those are in order, whether it's on our on-call list or if it's for a bigger engineering segment, right? Like one of the larger ones where we put out the RFPs, right? So,
yeah, well, I mean,
I was gonna say, I think one of the things that makes us like a really good team, like Oz mentioned earlier, he really believes in the project. I've been here almost 7 years now, right? We've all been working together here for almost 7 years. And Oz has just really come in and been an integral part of this operation. He's more involved than I ever thought he would be, right?
More than I thought I would be. So,
yeah, it's like some
you need to have an office here, man.
Some weeks I talk to Oz more than I talk to you, right? So he's just heavily involved with just everything we do here. Yeah. Like you said, from the agreements to the right-of-way acquisition, our board meetings.
Yeah. I mean, it's such it's the three of us essentially, and in terms of trying to get the funding, keep the project moving. I mean, I've talked to you guys on weekends.
Oh yeah,
sure. Late in the evenings, it just happens, right? Yeah. So it's the nature of it. But I think that speaks to the passion we have on delivering this. That's something that can be misinterpreted or what by others, but it's something that we believe in the project and the need for it, right?
We live here.
Yeah.
We all have kids.
Yep.
Right. We live here. We all have kids. One of the things that we changed a couple of years ago was the frequency of board meetings, right? And it seems to me, I mean, I know this, that we're getting more done when you don't have to spend every single month preparing for a board meeting. Talk about some of your other agencies or not talk about the other agencies, but like compare and contrast some of that.
I mean, I've got about 8 or 9 agencies that I'm general counsel for. And so from my perspective, less meetings is great, right? But I've seen that it depends on the nature of the agency, right? We've got a project that is spread out and our milestones aren't monthly necessarily. They're more quarterly or twice a year or annually, right? That's how we look, because this is a big project. It's not like we're not reporting the board on policy changes to like HR stuff every month. So I think the move from to quarterly was, one, appreciated by the board. I think it was well received. 2, it was a lot of times sometimes stuff's happening behind the scenes, but it's nothing really reportable to the board or to the public because work's ongoing, right? So it was sometimes there would be times where we'd have a meeting that would be updates, right? We can still provide the social media, other outlets.
Exactly.
We've done a great job doing with the revamp of the website,
the
newsletter we put out. There's other mechanisms to do that. And I think we're facilitating and meeting that need, but at the same time, respecting everyone's schedule and continuing the work we do, right? I've got agencies that meet every month, right? Which is, it works for them because there's more of a need there, larger agencies, more employees, that sort of thing. But for us, the quarterly meeting makes sense, and it's excellent milestones for us because it's short sprints, right?
Yeah, if you look at how the state requires reporting, right? Project update reporting, it's quarterly, right? How does the regional transportation agency require it? Quarterly. How much on a transportation project is going to be so dynamic and changing every single month? We're not a city council.
Right. Yes.
You know,
yes.
we're not a county where twice a week we need to meet for hours and hours and hours. It's, this is about delivering a project and quarterly updates. I think it's freed me up to do so much more work. Matt, you talk about it.
Yeah. So I had my reservations at first when you wanted to reduce the, number of board meetings. But like Oz said, I think, over time, we've kind of seen that it's given us the ability to do, have some time to do a lot of big chunk of work within that quarter. And I think what we're bringing to board meetings is also a better product. It's, we're able to give better updates to our board and just provide, much better information than, when we were doing them roughly every month. It seemed like we were spending, we can have 2 weeks preparing for the board meeting. Then you'd have 2 weeks to do work, and then it's back to preparing for the board meeting. So, yeah, this has been I think a really good change.
Yeah, the level of effort that you put into staff reports, to information items, presentations, that takes at least a week or
easily
2 weeks to prepare, right? And the review that goes into it. So it is a heavy lift. And just in general, if there is a need that we need to meet due to an emerging issue, we can hold a special board meeting. Or this is not something that's out of the ordinary. It happens all the time. So that's the flexibility we have with the JPA. Right?
Our project's never been delayed because of a board meeting.
No, never. Right.
Right. So yeah,
we need an agreement approved by a board, by the board. We could put that together in a week, right? It's not going to be too difficult. So
I think it actually helps in some sense with the schedule of our project with some of the milestones, because instead of saying, well, that can go to the next board meeting next month, it's like we got 4 a year, right? So
choose wisely.
We can plan. Yeah, we can plan out and say we need to do this at this board meeting, accomplish this, whatever, get these approvals. So it works pretty well, I think.
I wrote it into the scope of the engineering contract. I tried to, at least, and say like, my expectation is that the engineering firms are providing us all quarterly updates, but a month before, right? So it's like, I need that stuff a month before our board meeting, but every quarter, so that we are preparing our reports to Sacramento Transportation Authority, for the state of California, for our board. And the engineering firms have the expectation of that schedule. Like when you develop your critical path schedule, put our board meetings in it.
Yeah.
That's how I view it. So
yeah, it's much better planning for a year, like for the calendar year, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, thoughts on the future? I mean, where are we going? We're got
building this thing.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, what's big on upcoming for me is the state funding awards, right? And through Senate Bill 1, the Road Repair Accountability Act, we want to have some success in that trade corridor enhancement program. I was telling Matt, I want to be in every cycle.
Right.
Like I'm not even like every cycle I want to be in there. I say the same thing about, federal grants too. Well, the earmarks and the congressionally directed spending. It's like, hey man, every time there's a funding bill, put us in it.
You have to stay relevant at the federal level, and that's just putting your name out there, right? Whether we know the chances of success are low in some cases, but it's the act of doing it, keeping your name relevant, top of mind. You don't know who's reviewing these things. Next time around, something clicks, right? We try to always be creative in terms of the package we put together before them. So something's memorable in there. Maybe it comes around and pays us at the back end, like 2 years later. But at the state level, you're right. From like the TCEP, the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program, we were very fortunate to get into it, and that was monumental, because once you're in that's the state's recognizing investment in you, right? It's not like they're going to stop that as long as you're accomplishing and meeting expectations, which we are. A second cycle, a third cycle, showing the results. That's why that first time we got it in terms for engineering and design, that was critical, right? We're in. Big milestone for the agency, I thought.
Thank you, California Transportation Commission.
Absolutely, right? And now we're waiting to hear in June, is it? For the next round?
Yeah, May or June. So, well, what else, guys? Anything we want to tackle? What should the public know? I mean, we're doing this as a public engagement effort, right? I mean, I'll just say it like this, right? I kind of started by saying there's always been cookies and bottled water, and you go find your community center. You don't have a community center. You hold public meetings at a landfill.
Right.
That's we're trying to be well beyond that.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that from my perspective, doing talks like this, I mean, we've never done this before, but it's giving the public the insight to who we are, what we're doing, how we're spending public money, and, advancing the project that they want to see built.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of information out there. Come to the source, right? We've got our website has a tremendous amount of information for the public. If you've got questions, we're open to them. I mean, from that perspective, if you want to learn about the project, I know Matt and you meet with people constantly about just sharing information. Learn about the project, right? This is where we are. If it's a specific segment, you guys troubleshoot that. That's the level of engagement we have here at the JPA, and I think that's one of the advantages of a JPA in the sense I know I'm championing it, but it's important to know that this is the project. That's it. There's no competing interest, right? There's no other. You don't have to worry about filling in a pothole on Main Street or whatever it is. You got, this is the project, right? So to the extent you need information about it, I mean, we're here as a resource, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Well said. All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Oz. Thank you, Matt. We're wrapping it up. Thank you.